Hey everybody, welcome, welcome, welcome. My name is Laura Zentmeyer. I'm a platinum executive of the biotech and research company ASEA. I'm also a regenerative health practitioner. Today we are going to be talking about redox signaling molecules. So redox signaling molecules are already in your body. Your mitochondria are making them every single moment of the day. You could maybe go for 3 weeks without food, maybe 3 days without water, perhaps 3 minutes without oxygen. You can't last 3 seconds without your redox signaling molecules. They're so fundamental in cellular communication and just the healing process. And as you age, you're making less and less and less, making about 10% less every decade that you age beyond your 20s. So it kind of explains why older people have more health challenges or take longer to recover in general because they don't have as much of this stuff. You know, if a little kid falls, it's usually not a big deal, but if a 90-year-old falls, uh-oh. Um, and so what we have on our hands, dun, da, 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 is a bioreplenishment. This is bioidentical to what your mitochondria are making, redox signaling molecules. And they specifically help with cellular communication. So they amplify and clarify signals between and within your cells. The cells are talking to each other better, kind of wakes up the inner doctor in your cells and makes them go, oh, there's a problem that we have to deal with. It's going to boost antioxidants. So superoxide dismutase, glutathione, catalase, they go way up. What that means is your immune system is going to be so fortified. You don't have to be a germaphobe. I tell people I haven't bought Kleenex since 2016, which is when I started this. In addition to boosting those antioxidants and helping with cellular communication, they turn on genes specifically for your cardiac system, your immune system, your inflammatory system, your digestive system, and your hormone modulation. So it just empowers your cells to work better and heal faster. And oh my gosh, every health challenge involves cells. And people are like, is it good for this? Is it good for that? All you have to say is, are cells involved? And so we're going to talk about how this has helped some of my animals. And we're going to start with Gordon. Gordon's a little mouse on my shoulder there. And I live in New Hampshire. It gets cold in the wintertime. And sometimes mice decide that they'd rather live inside rather than outside. And they come in. And so I would catch the mice and say, no, please go back out into the wilderness. And this little guy, I caught him. He was in my kid's bathroom. I tried to take him outside, and he didn't want to get out of my hands. I'm like, oh, maybe you want to be a pet. Okay. And that's when Gordon became a member of our family. And I have two remarkable stories about Gordon. When Gordon had been living with us for 2 years, I don't know how old Gordon was to begin with when we first met. A growth was on Gordon's back, and so it's irregular cells. We kind of speak in code with ASEA. We don't name specific illnesses because we are compliant, and we say this is not a cure, this is not a treatment, but it definitely empowers your cells to work better. And every health challenge involves cells. And so Gordon had this growth on his back, and I'm like, oh, this is the end of Gordon. But I took some redox signaling molecules. This is the gel. This is the topical gel. It heals you from the outside in, and this is the drink that heals you from the inside out. It's the same product. This is just more concentrated and heals you from the outside in. And so gave Gordon a gabagoo on his back, and really, I didn't expect him to survive, but he did. And Gordon was with us for 8 years, which is remarkable because I looked it up online. That particular kind of mouse, the life expectancy is only a year. And if you think about, just for simplicity's sake, I don't know what the lifespan of an average human is, but let's just say 80 years. And Gordon was with us for 8 years. It's like a 640-year-old mouse. And I have a fun story about how this product not only empowers your cells to work better, but it's anti-aging. And I got this story from my good friend Gary. That's Gary Samuelson. and his dog Gucci were in his kitchen. And Gary Samuelson, he is the atomic physicist who figured out how to stabilize redox signaling molecules. He is why this product exists. Before he came along, there was another company that was trying to figure out how to stabilize the redox signaling molecules. They had spent 17 years and $29 million in research. Gary's the guy who figured it out. So smart, has impacted the health and well-being of literally millions of people globally. And I'll just say this also, if you could measure someone's worth by how kind they are, he is just the most precious treasure. He is the nicest man. I love him. And when I start my Zooms and I say, welcome, 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 it's kind of a tribute to Gary, because when we Zoom together, that's how he begins every Zoom. So anyway, I was having breakfast with Gary on another day, and he was sharing with me this great story about how he was in his laboratory and he had these petri dishes of senescent cells. So senescent means old, senile. In the field of cellular biology, it means cells that don't replicate anymore. And he was just playing, and he poured some ASEA into these petri dishes. And what was remarkable was some of the cells underwent apoptosis. That means cellular suicide. It sounds like a morbid concept that the cells are self-destructing, but it's so great. You want these irregular, wonky old cells to just kind of go away before they get into trouble. And so that's pretty cool. And by the way, there was a Nobel Prize won in 2016 for the study of apoptosis. And but what I found was even more remarkable was the other remaining cells, they started to replicate again. So this product is anti-aging. I believe that's why Gordon was part of our family for 8 entire years. And then I'll tell you about our chickens. We got a bunch of chickens. This is Snuggles sitting on my daughter Marty's lap playing cards. Here's some chickens climbing on my husband in our backyard. And the chickens, every now and then, they'd come down with something. And they would tend to get this lung issue where they'd be coughing up this icky stuff. And boy, I spent so many hundreds of dollars at the veterinarian with these chickens, and it never worked out well. The chickens, they'd have to move into the bathroom. We'd have to keep it at 95 degrees. They'd have special food. I'd have to inject them with medicine under their skin, on their backs. It never worked out well. And when I first became acquainted with ASEA, the chickens were one of the first animals that I saved. So I had this chicken in the bathroom. I really didn't think that it might even be alive when I walked into the bathroom. It had been in our bathroom for like 11 days. And I thought, oh, this is probably it. And it, couldn't even pick up its head, but I went in and I was inspired to share some ASEA with it. And I started just dabbing a Q-tip in a little cup of ASEA and kind of just putting it in the chicken's beak. And it perked up, and then it started drinking on its own. And I still didn't have high hopes for this chicken. I brought it outside thinking, well, this is probably its last day where it can enjoy some sunshine. But it kept drinking the ASEA, and within a few minutes, it was walking around in my yard eating bugs. And anytime we have a chicken episode, usually the problem is going to be that lung condition. It's very easy to recognize. And something kind of funny that happened when my kid was going to graduate from college, we're getting ready to get in the car. I have a pet sitter arranged to move in with my critters. And my husband comes up and he's like, all the chickens have that lung problem again. I'm like, oh no. And then my dog, Callie, jumps off the couch, injures her leg. She won't put any weight on that leg, and she's squealing in pain. I'm like, how can we leave the pet sitter with all of these health challenges with our critters? But I had to go to my kid's graduation. So I got out the products and I gave everybody some of this some of this. Within a couple of hours, everybody was just fine. My dog could put all of her weight on her leg again. She was happily prancing about. Chickens completely fine. This is amazing. It makes your cells heal and communicate better, work better, all that good stuff. Okay, so let's move on to another rodent. So this is Noodles, the rat. With the chickens, a community of rats decided that they would like to move into the chicken house, and they did so. And there were a lot of rats, and so many rats, and they weren't even alarmed when my children would go out to feed the chickens. They would be there to greet my kids as if to say, "Where's our food? We're just so happy to see you." And my kids would be like stepping over these rats. And my husband is going to have no part of this. And he's like, "I'm putting out rat poison. I've had enough." And I made a sad face because I don't want to hurt anything. I don't want to disrupt the food chain. I didn't like that idea. But he's like, "Laura, what alternatives do we have? Maybe they're carrying disease. Maybe they might hurt the chickens. Maybe they might look to the left and see our house and decide they'd rather live in the house rather than the chicken coop." And he's like, "I'm putting out the rat poison just to be completely honest and transparent with you. However, why don't you in your mind just tell yourself that they're relocating, they're moving off to the neighbor's territory." And so I chose to believe that the rats went away, except for this guy. And my older daughter found this rat in the bottom of the chicken coop, and it was paralyzed. And she was so angry at me, not my husband. She was angry at me. She comes in and accuses me of being a rat murderer and says, "I demand you go save that rat's life." And then my other child is on the computer, and she's checking things out on the internet, and she's like, "That rat's a goner. Rat poison is designed to poison." So I go out, I bring the rat in, and you can see here I'm doing the same thing that I did with the chicken, where I get a Q-tip, I saturate it with ASEA, and I just dab some of that into the rat's mouth. And the rat, it couldn't move. It could look at me. It couldn't move. I just kept doing that. Eventually I gave it a little bit of food. And then what I did, it was close to bedtime, I took the gel and I just coated the rat. I know that this is so good at detoxing. We've got stories where we've pulled mercury out of people, Agent Orange, lead poisoning. We've, not that we make any claims to cure or treat, however, that happened. And I was thinking, okay, let's get the toxins out of this rat, put a whole bunch of gel on the rat. Went to bed with little expectation of it surviving through the night. However, it did. And the next day, it could walk. It was kind of wobbly, but it could walk. And then the next day, it was doing really well. I've said that if there was a circus, like if there was a Cirque du Soleil that rats could be in, that one could be a circus performer. It was jumping up. We're always saving animals, so I had plenty of cages around. This rat had moved into one of our large bird cages. It would jump up, get on one of the perches and spin around, and amazing. And I was thinking, gee, it might be kind of fun to have a pet rat. And my husband was like, "Get that thing out of here." So we did. We took it to a happy place and set it free. So that is the rat story. Then in ASEA, I became known as the Rat Lady. One of my names. But I have a better name now. I was at somebody's birthday party. We had saved this woman who, she had been told she had 2 hours to live, was dealing with hospice. Gave her this, and her cells started working again, and I kind of feel like I'm part of this family now. And anyway, I was at this great big gathering, and one of the small children came up to me and said, "Are you the cell regeneration lady?" And I'm like, "Yes, I am. I like that title. It's much better than being known as the Rat Lady, in my opinion." Okay, now we're going to talk about my dog, Otto. I love this dog. Okay, here's another fun picture of him with my daughter, Marty. Otto, there he is walking on the treadmill. Otto, the first experience he had with the redox is he broke his leg. I don't know how he did it, but there he was on the front porch and his leg was broken and he wouldn't put any weight down on it. I scooped him up, I brought him to the vet, and she's like, we need to do emergency surgery right now. And just so you know, it's going to cost somewhere between $8,000 and $13,000. And be prepared, we're probably going to have to amputate. And I was like, no, thank you. I brought him home. It didn't even occur to me to give him the drink, but I went through a few of these tubes. I just loaded that leg up with the Redox within 1 month. He was perfect. And I brought him back to the vet. And he's, jumping around, and she said, this is a miracle. And I said, yes, the miracle is called redox signaling molecules. And she's like, no, nothing works this well. It's just a medical miracle. And so we agreed to kind of disagree about that. And then the next year, Otto developed stage 4 of irregular cells involving his liver and his spleen. And I brought him to the vet. Here are his blood test results. You can see the top one. So this is broken down into 3 categories. So and they're measuring all these different things. The middle column is where you want all the little things to line up. Things could be too low, they could be just right, or too high, kind of like Goldilocks. And so when she saw that, she's like, uh-oh, we need to do an emergency ultrasound. Did that, determined stage 4, liver and spleen, irregular cells. And she said, you should just put him down because he's going to die in 2 hours anyway. That's the kind thing to do. And I was like, no. And I brought him home. This time, he not only had the gel, he had the drink too. I was serious about it. And he's a big dog, 96 pounds. And so I gave him an entire bottle of this. He was funny. He looked at me. I really believe he kind of rolled his eyes at me. I was having a discussion with him and I said, listen, buddy, if you are thirsty, it's non-negotiable. This is what you're having today. I think he rolled his eyes. Not only do I have to deal with skeptical people, there's a skeptical dog, but he tried it, and with just 1 lick of it, his body knew. He just drank that whole bottle. You want to put these not in a metal dish. I know a lot of animals have metal dishes. You don't want this to be with metal. It'll interfere with the redox signaling molecules and affect the efficacy of it. So I had just had a clean glass bowl. He drank the whole thing. And just as a little fun fact, because sometimes I'll be like, well, the bottle, it says 32 ounces. We give you more. It's close to 36 ounces, just so you know. We always want to under-promise, over-deliver. I wonder if you can hear one of my birds in the background. Anyway, he had an entire bottle every single day for about a week. Was remarkably better in a week, and then I tapered down the dose. He was getting better, so I figured he didn't need as much, and we gave him like half a bottle every day for a week. And then he was so much better, and I gave him less. And then 1 month later, you can see from the second photo below, everything is lined up perfectly in the middle column of being normal. He's totally fine. And then at that point, the vet became a very good member of my ASEA team. And we have saved so many of the animals. Whenever there's just a problem that seems beyond hope, this is what she turns to. And then, I just wanted to share a story about another dog, not one of my dogs, but these here, this is a chart of pathways that are affected in a positive way by gene EGR1, which is one of the genes that this turns on. And I mean, it's just amazing, all the different things that one gene can do. There's the serotonin production, so that's your happy hormone. You're going to be more relaxed. You're going to have less anxiety. The second one is brain-derived neurotrophic factor. You're going to think better, remember better, learn better. Pathway 3, circadian rhythm. You're going to sleep better. Pathway 4, NRF2 pathway. That is all about making more glutathione, more antioxidants, and helping your cells become healthier, more resilient. The one that I want to talk about today regarding a dog is the pathway 5 VEGFA pathway. That is for the genesis or the creation of more blood vessels. And so there is this little dog who the vet said was blind. And when the vet would pull back its eyelid, it was just dead tissue. And the vet said, the reality is this dog will never see again. They gave that dog some ASEA, and I believe it was just within a week. It could see. I was actually Zooming with this dog. The dog was on the owner's laps, and he was like looking at me, and it was fun. And they pulled back the eyelid. You could see all these blood vessels. It's delivering the blood to the eye, restoring its vision. Just incredible. Some of the other pathways, well, they involve stem cells. Pathway 7 is possibly going to help one get pregnant. Pathway 8, that's to help you stay pregnant once you are pregnant. There's some that involve the irregular cells. You can see pathway 11, insulin signaling. That's a whole other Zoom. Pathway 10 has to do with the thyroid. So many different things. It's like throwing on a master switch. All these lights come on. Incredible. Okay, now we're going to talk about the seagull. So I was down in New Jersey at Point Pleasant Beach, and my husband and I were walking, and it was about to be this great big storm. And I was drawn to something off in the distance that was not in our path. And my husband said, that's a pile of garbage over there. And I'm like, I don't think so. And we got closer. It was a seagull. And my husband said, it's dead. But then it opened its eye, and I'm like, it is not dead. And I really wasn't sure if it was going to be able to survive. I mean, it couldn't even lift its head. But I carried it back to the hotel, snuck it in. It was like over a mile walk, and this big storm was coming. I just didn't want the bird to have to die in this awful, awful storm. I just wanted it to, if it were going to transition, I wanted it to do it in a loving environment. But I was going to give it a try. I was going to try the Redox. And so I climbed into the bathtub, and the left picture is me sort of forcing some ASEA into its beak. And then on the right, I'm much happier because the seagull is drinking on its own. It was incredible. And funny story. So when I became platinum in this company, my good friend Masami wanted to congratulate me and honor me on Facebook. She used the picture of me in the bathtub with the seagull as my picture. But anyway, moving on. So the bird, it just was getting better and better by the minute. It could stand. And then what was funny was my husband, he decided before checking out, I'm all ready. You can see my suitcase. I'm packed. I'm ready to go. I've got the bird. At that point, I had him wrapped in a towel. I was thinking, okay, I've helped the bird, but clearly it just needs to move in with me in New Hampshire for a week or so to truly rehabilitate. And at the time, I did not know it was illegal to transport seagulls over the state border, but I think I would have done it anyway. And so anyway, I'm ready to go, and my husband declares that he wants to take a nap before he starts this 300-mile drive. And I'm like, what, are you kidding me? Like, we're ready to go. It's time for checkout. And he's like, no, I want to rest. And I'm like, okay, but you know what? He gets these impulses that I really think are divine, because it gave the bird more time to recover. And so while my husband is resting, I'm just taking the ASEA gel, the Renew 28, and stroking it all over the bird's legs, because I figured it can easily get absorbed. And that's what's so great about these molecules. They're tiny, tiny molecules that get absorbed into your cells They go where they're supposed to go. They turn on signals that need to be turned on. They turn off signals that should be turned off. And then there's this cascading effect of just this domino effect of it leads to better cellular health, more resiliency. Anyway, if you can absorb it better, it's going to work better. So I'm putting it on the bird's feet because it just is going to absorb better than if I had done it on the feathers. And the bird starts walking around, and I'm like, wow, this is really good. My husband wakes up, it's time for us to go. And as we're driving, it just seems to get better and better. And mind you, an hour ago, it was just this crumpled up pile of feathers where it didn't have the strength to lift its head. And I'll show you, here we are in the car. And I wonder, like, I think maybe it's okay to release. Horrible video of myself, but nonetheless, here we go. It just flies away. It just flies away. And it flies and it flies and it flies. I think it heads back to the beach where I'd found it. So, incredible. Okay, moving on. We're going to talk about a horse. This is not my horse, but I really like the story. My friend Maureen Hayes sent me this photo. So this is the same horse. This is a picture of the same horse. On the left, it's at a slaughterhouse. And it's covered in mange. And it's just not in good shape. Some wonderful angelic person comes to rescue it, brings it home, gives it a Sia, and there you go. It's vibrantly well in the photo on the right. And then what was remarkable and a surprise to everybody is that while this horse was at the slaughterhouse, it happened to be pregnant. So it gave birth to a baby, and they both take Redox. So there you go. We have another horse story. Secretariat's great-grandson injured his leg. The vets wanted to put him down. And they said, well, and maybe, I think it was a 30% chance that they might be able to help him with this very expensive surgery. But instead of doing the surgery and instead of putting the horse down, they went through five tubes of the Renew 28, completely restored the health of the horse. And then here's a little video. People wonder, like, how do you get an animal to drink the ASEA? My animals will drink it without any food, they just love it. And they also are really eager to just eat this straight out of my hand. But what you can do, this is my daughter's cat. His name is Bug. And Bug loves his ASEA. And so what she does is she just puts a few little pieces of food in it, and if you mix something with the ASEA, it is going to compromise the efficacy of it to a degree, but not that much. And so if the animal's not going to drink it just plain, give it something that it loves. And now Bug loves this so much that he wants this poured over every meal of his. And recently they ran out, and I had to make a separate trip down to Boston just so Bug could have some more of this. He doesn't have any health challenges, but he gets really angry if he doesn't get to have his ASEA. And so those are some stories about how animals regained their health with the help of ASEA. The ASEA, again, we don't make any claims, so we just empowered their cells to work better and heal. Animals don't know anything about placebos, and I hope that you enjoyed this. So, to your health, live long and prosper, to infinity and beyond, and thanks for joining.